Alright, what's up everyone, I'm Filoki, and today we're going to be taking a look at a preview of the Week 15 matchup between the 9-4 Seattle Seahawks and the 6-7 Washington football team. This Week 15 matchup for the Seahawks is surprisingly enough, in my opinion, probably going to be one of the most important games going into the future because this will really show what we can do against good defenses, because the Giants game, we completely just fell off because we were relying on the big plays too much, and the Giants played really good defense and they played mistake-free football on the offensive side, and that's what the Washington football team is going to do. Ron Rivera has done a great job coaching this team through everything that he's had to deal with on his own personal side, and this team, I mean, they have a great defensive line, and their entire defense around their defensive line just plays well because the quarterback cannot really have a clean pocket because Chase Young gets pressure, Montez Sweat gets pressure, then they have amazing defensive tackle depth, so really everything else just feeds around their defensive line, and their defense plays really well. And with Alex Smith and Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick, they just play good football. J.D. McKissick kind of plays that Christian McCaffrey role. Antonio Gibson is a really good runner. Alex Smith doesn't make too many mistakes. They can just put together drives without making mistakes, and even if their offense doesn't get going, their defense is going to stop other teams. So this is a game like the Giants where we have to make good plays on offense. If we don't get the big play, we have to be willing to just put together longer drives. And honestly, we need to play defense because Alex Smith is out for this game, and Dwayne Haskins being in, this is really an opportunity for the Washington football team to make some mistakes offensively, because Dwayne Haskins, he is more careless than Alex Smith. Alex Smith is a veteran. He doesn't make those huge plays too often, but he doesn't really make huge mistakes. And Dwayne Haskins, he can make mistakes, but he can also be a little bit more of a threat running the football, and he can probably make some bigger plays, take more risks. So our defense needs to play well, and our offense needs to be ready to just throw out the big plays, because I feel like the Washington football team, like the Giants, is probably going to just completely stop those big plays. Well, looking on the potential positives for the Seahawks, this could be an absolutely amazing game to show what our offensive line can do. If our offensive line can once again not allow Russell Wilson to be sacked like last week, of course we did play the Jets, that would be absolutely amazing. Of course, we still have some injuries on our offensive line, but still, if our offensive line can at least do decent against this Washington football team defensive line, I will honestly be pretty excited going into the future. But really, we need to show that our offense can actually beat teams that have really good defenses, because when we played the Rams, nothing got going. When we played the Giants, nothing got going. And if we don't get anything going against this team, that'll be a pattern, and there are a lot better defenses when you actually make the playoffs. So that is going to be a problem for our team if we cannot put together drives without relying on big plays. I think it's going to be a lot better because Chris Carson's going to be back. There is a potential that Rashad Penny can come back. That'll be really interesting, seeing the people off IR, if they will come back, Rashad Penny, Quentin Dunbar, and Greg Olsen. But really, this is going to be a game where the Seahawks have to showcase that they can put together offensive drives and they don't have to rely on just big plays. Now, when it comes to the injuries for the Seahawks, like I said before, there are 3 players from IR that could potentially come back this week: Rashad Penny, Quentin Dunbar, and Greg Olsen. Pete Carroll has said that all 3 have looked good in practice and they could come back this week, but honestly, he hasn't said anything specific. He hasn't actually confirmed if they're coming back or not, so really we can't rely on those guys coming back. But if Rashad Penny is back, that will be nice. Greg Olsen, that's actually very surprising because he had a really bad injury, 3 weeks ago, and he's already coming back. That would be amazing. Even if he can come back next week, that's just great resiliency from Greg Olsen, because that could have been a really bad injury. People thought he was going to be out for the season. I even thought he was going to be out for the season, but he came back real quick. Quentin Dunbar, it'll be nice to have him back because our secondary can use any help that it can get every single week. But still, those 3 guys, they could be some pretty big difference makers going into the later weeks, even if they don't play this week and going into the playoffs. But when it comes to the injuries for the Week 15 matchup for the Seahawks, we still have some pretty big problems with the offensive line. Brandon Shell is questionable for this game, and Jamarco Jones is out. So if Brandon Shell doesn't play, we're probably going to have to rely on Chad Wheeler again, who played fine last week, but that was against the Jets. The week before, he got absolutely destroyed. Travis Homer is out for this game, and also Carlos Dunbar is questionable, but he didn't participate for most of the week, so he probably won't be playing this game. Pete Carroll has said that these are guys that he really doesn't care about bringing back too soon because we're going to make the playoffs most likely, so he wants to make sure that they're healthy for a playoff run. So honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Carlos Dunlap doesn't play, and probably Brandon Shell doesn't play either this game, but if either of them do, they'll probably come in and actually help the team. And when it comes to the Washington football team, they don't have too many injuries this week, but the injuries that they do have are really important. Alex Smith is going to be out for this game, like I said. Dwayne Haskins is going to be playing. That'll be a pretty big hit for the Washington football team, but the bigger hit, in my opinion, would be Antonio Gibson, who is doubtful for this game. He didn't participate for most of the week, and he's been a great rusher for this team. He's been really good fantasy-wise. He's been really good just making touchdowns, getting yards. He's been really good. They have a couple linebackers out too, so they're dealing with quite a few injuries, but honestly, this is going to be a pretty big game no matter what. They don't really have too many big defensive injuries because, their defensive line is still fully intact, and they have most of their defensive players. They have a couple linebackers out, but still, they have Alex Smith out, they have Antonio Gibson out, so that might make the job for our defense a bit easier, but still, J.D. McKissic is a really good backup that could come in, still get rushing yards, still get passing yards if Antonio Gibson doesn't play. And Dwayne Haskins, he might make a lot more mistakes than Alex Smith, but he's still a solid guy. He has a pretty good connection with Terry McLaurin, so we need to watch out for that, but still some pretty big injuries for the Washington football team. Injuries, of course, are going to be a big problem for the Washington football team on offense, but defensively, they're still going to be a huge problem. We really need to watch out for the defensive line, probably one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. Chase Young, who is an absolute star as a rookie, he is making plays, he is super athletic. Montez Sweat on the other side, who is a bit slept on, but he is super athletic as well. And then they have amazing defensive tackle depth. They have De'Aaron Payne, they have Jonathan Allen, they have Matthew Ioannidis. Just, they really can't go wrong with whoever they put in on the defensive line. And our offensive line still dealing with injuries. It's going to be a tough game for Russell Wilson and the run game because the Washington football team, they're one of the best defenses in the league. They're top 10 in just about every single category that you can look at defensively. They're top 10 in sacks, top 10 passing defense, top 10 run defense. They're just an absolutely amazing defensive team, and they don't make too many mistakes on offense. Of course, like I said, Dwayne Haskins is going to play this game, so maybe we might have a chance to get some interceptions, maybe make some big plays defensively, but really, their defense is going to be a problem. We have to make sure that we can put together drives, and going against the Rams next week, there's going to be 2 teams in a row where we really have to be able to put together really long drives because we're probably not going to be able to get those big plays too often. We're going to need to be able to put together big drives without big plays. We need to have some run game. We got to have some quick passes because these defensive lines that we're going to be going against, this pass rush that we're going to be going against the next 2 weeks, maybe even 3 if the 49ers come out and play well, it's going to be a problem for Russell Wilson. We need to get the ball out of his hands quick so he doesn't take too many hits. But for the Seattle Seahawks, they are coming off a very good game against the Jets, and of course, not a great team whatsoever in the Jets. But I think this is a game that we can come in with momentum. When we played the Giants, we didn't have too much momentum, We didn't just blow a team out 40-3. So the Giants, they were a good defense, pretty solid offense, but we really didn't have too much momentum going into that game. We have momentum going into this game, and I don't think that we're going to underestimate this team like we underestimated the Giants. So potentially, this could be a lot better than the actual Giants game went, but still, I think there is a lot of problems that can arise if we allow them to arise, but I'm really just hoping that our offense plays well. Hopefully Brian Schottenheimer can make sure that our offensive scheme doesn't rely on the big plays like the Giants. We kind of looked like against the Giants, it was big play or nothing for the first half, then we started to try to do something else in the second half, but it never got going. Hopefully we can figure something out. Our run game did really well last week. I really liked how we were playing with getting the run game going, getting some yards with the run game, and that forced the defenses to play down, and then we just made some big plays with Russell Wilson. So honestly, I think that we can do good this week. I hope that we can. This will be a big game because the Washington football team, they've won their last 4 games. They've beat the Steelers, who were undefeated at the time. They're just playing absolutely amazing defensively. They really haven't been doing too great on offense, but their defense has been getting scores. They've been getting pick sixes, scoop and score for Chase Young. Their defense just does it all for them. Their defense is really good. And the Seahawks defense, they've been playing a lot better the past few weeks. So it'll be nice to see them come in, probably get another relatively easy offensive game. So, the offense for the Washington football team is going to be great. Hopefully our defense can continue to play well. And, if the defense can play good enough, stop them from getting 20 points, keep them 17 like the Giants, our offense needs to be able to beat that team. We need to be able to score more than 17 points because if our defense holds a team in the playoffs to 17 points and our offense doesn't score enough, then what are we as a team? Because we are more offensive than defensive as a team right now. We have amazing talent on both sides, but our offense has been playing a lot better than our defense. So hopefully our defense can do what they did against the Giants, keep them relatively low, just stop them as best you can. Honestly, if we can keep the Washington football team to single digits, that'd be nice. But, our offense needs to come and play because last time we played a half-decent defense, that's not the Jets, we did not do well. We haven't done well on offense except for the Jets in the past 4 weeks. So hopefully this game we'll do good on offense, we'll do good on defense, but this is definitely going to be a challenge from a pretty slept-on team for most of the season, but they're now getting a lot of recognition. Now, I'm going to be honest, I was optimistic against the Giants, and I'm not doing that again, but I'm also not going to be pessimistic to the point where I think that we're going to lose this game. I think this is a game that we can win, but it's going to be a very challenging game. If we can find a way to blow out this team, That'll be an absolutely amazing game. That'll be way better than blowing out the Jets, way better than blowing out the Falcons or having really good offensive games early on in the season. If we can blow out this amazing defense, which is top 10 in just about every single thing, amazing defensive line, if Russell Wilson gets sacked less than 3 times, I'll be surprised and I'll be very excited. I'll be very happy. And, going into next week against the Rams, we have some really tough defensive matchups going into these last few weeks of the season. And then we have the playoffs, which are obviously going to be tough defensive matchups no matter what you do, because they're going to be good teams in the playoffs. But I think this is a game that we can win. It's going to be tough, so I wouldn't be surprised if we lose. But this is a game that we have to win if we want to prove that we can actually do something in the playoffs. But with all that said, there's really not too much to talk about in this preview. This is going to be 2 really solid teams going up against each other. A really good offense against a really good defense, and then a pretty good defense versus a pretty good offense. This is going to be a pretty even game. I think the Seahawks are way more talented, but when it comes to coaching, when it comes to how the Washington football team has been playing these past few weeks, they've been doing really good. And honestly, I think that this team can easily beat us, but I think the Seahawks can also easily beat the Washington football team. This is going to be a game that can go either way. It'll be a very fun game to watch, most likely, but we just got to see what happens. And with all that said, I'm going to predict a relatively close game because I think this is going to be a game where the defenses shine. I think this is going to be a game where the Seahawks offense just can barely just edge out the Washington football team's offense to win the game. I think the Seahawks defense is going to stop the Washington offense relatively well, and I think the Washington defense is going to pretty much just destroy the Seahawks offensive line, but we'll see what happens. Really, this is the NFL, on paper, Washington football team defense looks like they're going to kill the Seahawks and get about 20 sacks. They could do that. They could also get 0 sacks. It really depends on how the Seahawks end up playing. If they can come in prepared to not be making the big plays, because I think that that's not going to happen, then we could definitely win this game. But the Washington football team, if the Seahawks come in with the wrong offensive game plan, we can lose this game easily. So really, I have no idea what to predict for this. I think it's going to be close. I'm going to say 24-17. I think it could go either way. But because, I'm a pretty optimistic Seahawks fan when it comes to I hope that we win games, I'm going to say the Seahawks are going to win it 24-17. I think it's going to be a really tight game. I think it's going to be a game that really proves the Washington football team as a team that can go into the playoffs and have the potential to beat any team. Because if they can beat the Seahawks, they could definitely be one of the better teams going into the playoffs. They're 6-7. I'm honestly surprised. A Washington football team in the NFC East, 6-7. They started 1-5, I think. But, they've been playing really well these past few weeks. This is going to be a team that's going to be a tough challenge. They're probably going to be making the playoffs. They're going to host a home game. So if we play them in the playoffs, this is going to be difficult too. This is a good team. 24-17, like I said. I think the Seahawks win, but this could definitely be a game that the Washington football team end up winning. But with that, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know down below what you think is going to happen for this game. Honestly, I think it's going to be an entertaining game to watch. It is a morning game, so, I'm going to have to wake up and either be really excited for the next few games that are going to be played that day or really disappointed after that game. So we'll see how it happens. We'll see how it goes. But like I said, let me know down below in the comments what you think is going to go on for this game. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. And with that, I'd like to thank you for watching. Have a great day.